Yo, what up guys, I'm Sammy and welcome back to the Soul Drop. And today we're going to be doing a versus video between the Adidas Ae 1 Low and the Nike Sabrina 2. So in my personal opinion, these are two of the best performing, or one of the best performing, or two of the best performing hoop shoes for each shoe company respectively, right? So the Sabrina 2 is one of Nike's best performing hoop shoes, and the Adidas Ae 1 Low, or the Ae 1, is the best performing hoop shoe from Adidas's basketball shoe line. And also, as far as the price goes, they're actually pretty dang nice. So the Sabrina 2 is 130 bucks, and the Sabrina 1, which was also an amazing performer, is on sale right now for like 100 bucks because it is, a little bit old. And also, you can do a Nike ID on the Sabrina 2, which is dope, right? Also, the Adidas Ae 1 Low is only 110 bucks. The regular Ae 1 is 120 bucks. So very, very good pricing and also amazing performance, especially if you're a guard for both of these shoes. Extremely responsive. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say it right off the bat. Both of these shoes are amazing performers and you can't really go wrong with either of them. But there are a couple of differences, which, obviously from whatever your preference is, you can lean towards either the Ae 1 Low or the Sabrina 2, and we'll try to figure out what that is in this video. If you guys do want to cop either of these shoes, I try to leave the affiliate link in the description box, and if you do choose to get any of these shoes, either of these shoes or like the Sabrina 1 or the regular Ae 1, I try to leave the affiliate link in the description box, or it'll be a product picture underneath this video, or like product links in the corners over here. And as always, thank you guys so much for all the support, but let's get it started off with the tracciones, right? So the traction pattern is very, very different, but they're both really, really nice. But also there is a little bit of a winner in my personal opinion, right? Just from my personal experience, if you're playing on a clean court, which shoe has a harder bite? The Ae 1 has a harder bite, right? So in the original colorway that I had, which was the orange colorway, it was all translucent, that shoe had an amazing bite. Really, really hard bite. One of the hardest bites of this year. Now I got the Ae 1 Low, and this is pretty much like a solid routes almost, It kind of looks like semi-translucent, but it's pretty much solid, and it also has an amazing bite, right? The Sabrina 2, however, still has an amazing bite as well. It stops extremely hard, especially on a clean court, but I would say the Ae 1 is just a little bit better, so I'm gonna edge it out to the Ae 1 for traction on a clean court. Also for dust performance, the Ae 1 is just a tiny bit better as well. I feel like it's affected by dust a little bit less, and also it bites through dust a little bit better than the Sabrina 2, right? So the Sabrina 2 also bites through dust extremely well, but it picks up a little bit more dust. It's also a very, very easy wipe, so of course it still has really good dust performance for the Sabrina 2. It's just the Ae 1 is just a tiny bit better. And as far as the durability goes, however, I feel like I don't know, I'm gonna edge it out to the Sabrina's just a tiny bit, because the Ae 1 feels it's not that it's like softer. I think it's just because the grooves are like a little bit longer this way, right? A little bit deeper, I guess. So maybe that's why it moves a little bit. The Sabrina 2, the rubber does feel a little bit harder though, now that I'm feeling it. And also there is more surface area because we do have these grooves right here, right? That's not in contact with the ground. So because of that, the Sabrina 2 might be a little bit better for outdoor use. But if you're playing on an indoor court, the Ae 1 is just a tiny bit better. But like I said, they're both absolutely amazing. And as far as squeak goes, of course, that has nothing to do with performance. But the Sabrina 2 is freaking loud and really, really squeaky. And the Ae 1 still has a really nice squeak. It's just for this color, like this, the low, it's not as squeaky as my translucent pair. So yeah, so that's a little bit of a difference, but of course, again, squeak has nothing to do with performance. But I feel like, a lot of people like to know if it's squeaky or not, because I feel like a lot of hoopers like to have a squeaky outsole, you know what I mean? So there's that. Moving on to the heel to toe transition, so also there is a little bit of a difference, right? So here for the Sabrina 2, it's actually a little bit smoother feeling, right? So here in the heel, we have a nice curve shape, and also it's pretty much fully exposed for the cushion, right, for the foam. So it's extremely soft here in the heel, right? So coming here into the heel, it feels extremely soft, and then going into the forefoot has a little bit of a curved shape. It's not extremely exaggerated like some of the other shoes that Nike has to offer, like the GT Hustle 3, but it still has a nice little rocker shape, right? And also, it's very, very flexible here in the forefoot. It's extremely easy to flex, and also here in the midfoot as well. So that is a little bit of a difference. Of course, if you need torsional support, then obviously the Sabrina 2 is not the best option. I feel like most people, you should be fine, but of course you're gonna be using a little bit more of your foot, right? Because it is a lot more flexible in the overall shoe, which of course is not a bad thing. It's just you're gonna feel it in your ankles and your feet a little bit more, especially like your arch, as I did mine. The AE1 low, of course, we have pretty much zero compression here in the actual heel. It is a little exposed here, but there's not a lot of compression, right? But there is a nice little shape, a curved shape, so it's not super clunky really at all. And also coming here to the forefoot, we have a little bit of a curved shape as well. I feel like it's a little bit more curved than the Sabrina 2. But of course, the main difference is that the forefoot is a little bit stiffer. You know what I mean? So, and also you have better torsional support as well. So it just feels a little bit more supported underneath your foot for the overall sole of the shoe. And I'm not saying like one's better than the other. It's just like what you like to feel in your shoes, right? So the Sabrina 2 is a lot more flexible. It's a lot more fluid than the AE1, which is a little bit more supportive and a little bit more rigid feeling for the overall shoe underneath your foot, right? And also it is a little bit more like springy here in the forefoot as well for the AE1 low. So, and also the AE1. So there is a heel to toe transition there. Moving on to the cushioning setup. So the cushioning setup also is a little bit different, but also I would say it's really nice for guards if you want a responsive setup, and also a low to the ground setup, right? So for both of these shoes, you have really good core feel, right? But the Sabrina 2 is actually a little bit lower to the ground than the AE1. Even though the AE1 has really good core feel, the Sabrina 2 really surprised me and has one of the best core feels that you can get right now. It just feels a little bit lower to the ground. And also, you have a lot more compression here in the heel, right? So that actually feels pretty dang soft, but I would say the overall impact protection is better here in the AE1 low, right? So because you don't really have as much compression, right? It doesn't really like compress as much, so it doesn't hurt your feet as much if you're doing really hard impacts, right? So it was adequate for me here in the Sabrina 2. I'm not saying it was bad or anything. It wasn't hurting my feet, but the AE1 low is just a little bit better for impact protection overall, especially on harder impacts, because the foam is a little bit thicker. And because the foam is thicker and you are a little bit higher up off the ground, you have a little bit more cushion, especially on like heel strikes and stuff like that. So that feels a little bit nicer for the heel cushion for the AE1 low. But I do like the overall compression that you get here in the heel for the Sabrina 2, right? In the forefoot, of course, the AE1 is a little bit more dead. You know, there's not much going on. But the Sabrina 2, we have a forefoot zoom unit, which feels a little bit bouncier, right? So yeah, it's just a little bit different. It's not that one's better than the other. They're both nice. As far as the overall step and comfort goes, I would say the AE1 low is a little bit better in the heel, but the forefoot is better in the Sabrina 2. So again, there's a little bit of a disparity. It's not that one's better than the other. It's just, I would say, whatever your preference is, you should go towards that. And in my personal opinion, I would say I like the AE1 low a little bit better because I do like the overall impact protection, right? In the heel, like, especially for heel strikes. It still has good core feel. I like the soft underfoot cushion as well, even though the Sabrina 2 is still nice. So there is the cushioning setup there. Moving on to the materials. The material is very, very different. And that's what makes the overall shoe feel extremely different as well. Not only the flexibility, right, of both of the shoes, right? So here in the AE1 low, of course, we do have this kind of like textile material, and then we have a reflective piece right here on top of your toes. And then around that, of course, we have this crazy TPU wing with all these holes and stuff like that. So yeah, it's still like conforms to your foot pretty dang well, right? It feels nice, it flexes where it needs to flex, it doesn't feel cumbersome, it doesn't feel uncomfortable or stiff or anything like that, which I do like, while still being extremely supportive, right? But it's just not the most minimal feeling upper, right? Makes sense. But the Sabrina 2, however, we have this nice like textile mesh material, you know, and it kind of has like a little bit of plastic for the material, right? For the actual strands of material. But yeah, it's definitely thinner. It's still supportive, but not as supportive as the AE1, of course. And it's just softer. It's just softer, and it's just a lot more like soft feeling for the overall upper, like here in the forefoot, here in the midfoot, like the movement of the overall shoe and upper on your foot, right? Versus the AE1 Low, which is a little bit more of like a supportive, rigid feeling shoe, which still conforms to your foot very well, but just adds a little bit more stiffness to the upper when you're doing like hard movements and stuff like that. So yeah, again, they're both nice. I love how they both feel on foot. It's just different, you know what I mean? As far as the tongue goes, they both have, I would say the Sabrina 2 has a little bit more padding, but they're not that well padded, right? And also the Sabrina 2 is a half booty construction tongue, giving you a better overall one-to-one fit, while the AE1 Low is an independent tongue, right? So I don't like that as much, but it wasn't a huge issue. And here in the ankle area, they're both around the same. Not super well padded for the ankle area. So yeah, again, as far as the overall material quality goes, I would say I like the AE1 Low a little bit better. Just because the Sabrina 2, it doesn't feel like it'll be the most durable. You know what I mean? I feel like it won't last as long. So there is the upper there. Moving on to the fit. So I went true to size for the AE1 Low, and I went up half size for the Sabrina 2, right? And they both fit me extremely well. However, there is a little bit of length for the Sabrina 2 for me because I did go up half a size, of course. Obviously, right? But it's still a really nice snug fit for me here in the toe box, right? Although there is a little bit of length here in the toe box, it is snug. It's a nice snug fit over the top of my toes, and width-wise, I would say it's around normal to slightly narrow, so it's not even like my foot swimming inside of the shoe, right? So if I went true to size, it might even be a little bit too snug, but of course, it does break in and does get a little bit roomier because of this textile mesh material, so just be careful with that. But of course, that's not going to happen with the AE1. It stays extremely snug here in the toe box, even when you do break it in. Lengthwise, my toes go right to the edge of the shoe, and widthwise, I would say it's around normal width as well. It's just, yeah, they're both really nice fitting shoes for me. So pretty much I would give it a tie, but like I said, I went up half a size for the Sabrina 2 and true to size for the AE1 Low. Alright, now moving on to the support and lockdown. So of course, the AE1 Low is the overall more supportive shoe, but the Sabrina 2 for me personally was adequate, right? It reminds me of the PG6 where, you know, like it's adequate for support, but it's not great for support, right? So I feel like for most people you should be fine unless you do a lot of crazy lateral movements, right? And you need a lot of support and you're heavier, then probably the Sabrina 2, just like the PG6, isn't the best option. But again, like I said, for most people, it should be adequate, it should be fine, right? But of course, the AE1 Low, you have the plastic material, the plastic TPU wing. It's a lot more supportive. Lateral containment is gonna be a little bit better as well, even though, like I said, for the Sabrina 2, on lateral movements, I was fine. You can see all the lateral counters here. So even when I was doing, you know, step backs, crossovers, cuts, doing crazy lateral movements, my foot felt overall pretty secure into the shoe, but of course it was even more secure and a lot more supported in the AE1 Low, right? And now moving on to the lateral stability, I mean, I didn't have any issues with either of the shoes, and look, they're both very wide, right? Pretty much the same exact width. We have a nice outrigger, right, for the Sabrina 2 and also the AE1. So yeah, lateral stability is good in both of these shoes as well, and I didn't really experience any type of heel slippage. And once I tightened the laces, my feet were very secure into the shoe, and I felt extremely quick when I was playing both of the shoes, right? And now moving on to the weight, so that is the biggest difference between both of these shoes besides the upper, of course. And the Sabrina 2 is actually a good amount lighter, right? So it comes in at 10.95 ounces, so pretty much 11 ounces, right? 11 ounces for the Sabrinas, and the AE1 Low is 14.15 ounces, so it's around 3 ounces heavier than the Sabrina 2, and it definitely does feel heavier. You can feel the weight of the shoe a little bit more in the AE1, of course, obviously, right? But it doesn't feel more responsive. Actually, it's around the same for the responsiveness for both of the shoes, and in some instances I would actually say the AE1 Low is a little bit more responsive because the overall upper, the overall shoe is a little bit more rigid and a little bit more supportive feeling than the Sabrina 2, right? So if you want to feel quick, both of these shoes are really nice, right? Amazing tractions for both of the shoes. The cushions very responsive as well for both of them. It's just the Sabrina 2 feels a little bit, it's just more flexible, a lot more fluid feeling while feeling lighter, of course, as well. While the AE1 Low feels a little bit more sturdy, a little bit more rigid, a little bit more supportive, and also feeling a little bit more springy, of course, right? Especially when you're doing heel dominant strides down the court. And also the AE1 Low doesn't feel bulky at all. I mean, nothing's really protruding out. You know, it's just a really streamlined shoe shape towards your foot. So yeah, it's just a little bit heavier, you know? So there is the weight there. Moving on to the ventilation, yeah, the Sabrina 2 is gonna be a lot better. You know, there has better airflow through this mesh material, and also it's a lot thinner of a material. So it'll be a lot more cooler for the Sabrina 2. And as far as the aesthetics go, Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to go to this Sabrina 2. The Sabrina 2 looks absolutely amazing. The colorways that are coming out, and also the Nike ID designs that some of you guys are making look absolutely amazing too. The AE1 Low, however, still looks amazing. And also the other colorway that came out, like the orange one, it's a little bit darker of an orange than the first colorway of the AE1, like the regular one that came out. But that still looks really nice. But I still say the Sabrina 2 looks better, right? So tell us what you guys think looks better down in the comment section below. So wrapping things up, yeah. So like I said in the beginning of this video, they're both amazing performers and you can't really go wrong. It's just they're a little bit different, right? So as far as like what needs to be good in a hoop shoe, in my personal opinion, both of these shoes have that covered, right? Amazing traction, right? Amazing traction. You need to have good traction on a hoop shoe, in my personal opinion. They're both really nice for cushion, but also responsive, you know? Overall impact protection is adequate. They're both comfortable. It's not too much. Like it's not too soft or mushy, it's just the right amount of responsiveness for me, while also having pretty good underfoot cushion and court feel, right? So they're both just a little bit different for that, and also how the overall shoe feels, right? The AE1, like I keep saying, is more rigid, it's a lot more supportive feeling, it's a little bit springier, you know what I mean? And while the Sabrina 2 is just a lot more soft feeling, it's lighter, you know, a lot more fluid feeling as well, which it's different, you know what I mean? It's not like one's better than the other, so it's just whatever you want, you know what I mean? So for the Sabrina 2, if you want more of like I guess like a more minimal shoe feel, you know what I mean? You know, like those like minimal like barefoot shoes. If you want a little bit more of that type of feel in your hoop shoe, then go with the Sabrinas, right? If you want a little bit more rigid, a little bit more stiff feeling and supported feeling shoe while still feeling extremely quick, then the AE1, of course, is the better option. For me personally, I love playing both of the shoes, but if I had to pick an everyday shoe for me, I would choose the AE1 Low a little bit more, just in my personal opinion. But like I said, I love both of them, right? So anyways, that about concludes my versus video between the AE1 Low and the Nike Sabrina 2. Again, if you guys do want to cop either of these shoes, I'll try to leave the affiliate link in the description box, but that's it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.